Hello again, and welcome back to Coach's Corner with Jeremy Rica. And today we're going to continue the Be the Best Player series. Last week we talked about having a positive attitude, and believe me, that's really important. But today we're going to talk about something that I feel is just as important, and that is motivation. Now, motivation is something I believe every soccer player should have. I believe every soccer coach should have the motivation to want to do well. And as a player, when I talk about motivation, I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about having the motivation to want to do well on the soccer field, but I'm also talking about having the motivation to figuring out things that you want to fix on your own. And that's kind of what we're going to focus on today. Because if you have the intangibles and you have the mindset that you're going to be able to fix these things on your own, it's only going to make you that much more appetizing, if you will, to coaches at the next level, because they want guys that take initiative. They want girls that take initiative to do things on their own. So if you're able to identify things that you need to fix and you have the motivation to do that, it's going to make you a great soccer player, and it's going to make you a player that people at the next level want to take, because they see that you have the drive and the commitment and the motivation to do well. And part of having motivation is having motivation to wanting to fix things as an individual. And when we talk about that, there's three things as a player that you need to remember, and that is this: what, why, and how. And you might be saying to yourself, well, you repeat a lot of these things in a lot of your videos, and sadly, you're not wrong, but the thing that you need to realize is that a lot of these things blend together. So when I talk about these things, yes, you're right, I do repeat a lot of these things, but that is because they are important. And usually when you're talking about different topics, a lot of these topics require the same things. So that's why I'm repeating it. It's not because I want to be redundant, but it's because it's necessary. So when we talk about the what, obviously, we need to identify, what do I need to fix? And if I have the motivation to identify things in my game that I need to fix, guess what? If I'm a coach, you're a player that I'm going to look at. Because if you can say to me, Coach, I know there's things that I need to fix. These are the things that I think I need to fix. What do you think? If you take that initiative, coaches are going to love you, because you're taking initiative to doing well without coaches saying, hey, this is what you need to fix. If you can figure that on your own as a player, you're going to do really well in the soccer world. Independence is key when it comes to being a soccer player. Having that ability to identify your own problems without coaching staff is a big skill to have. The next part of it is why. Why do I need to fix this? So for instance, if I say, hey, I want a better shot. I am a striker, but my shot isn't where I want it to be. Well, why isn't it where you want it to be? Is it because your toe is pointed up? Is it because you're using the side of your foot? I mean, if you're a striker and you're trying to score, most of the time you're not going to score with a side foot. But I'm just using that as an example. So if you can say, okay, this is why I don't have a good shot, and I identified the problem, I want a better shot, this is why my shot right now isn't working. Those are two big things. And the last part of it is really simple. It's how am I going to get there? And that's probably the most important step out of all this. Because if you can identify how you're going to fix a problem, obviously you're going to be more successful. Because if you say to me, hey, I know I have a problem and I'm not sure how to get there, yes, I will give you the advice, but the first question I'm going to ask you is, how do you think you're going to get there? What would you do as a player to fix that problem? And as coaches, that's one of the first things that we're taught is seeing if a player can get there on their own without us telling them. And 9 times out of 10, if you make them really think about it, players will get there on their own. Because a lot of times they know that they have a problem, but one of two things is preventing them from fixing that problem. Either A, they just don't want to, or B, they genuinely don't know how to fix the problem. So if as a player you can identify what the problem is, you can identify why that problem is there, and you can identify how you're going to fix that problem. Like like I said before, if you're a player that wants a better shot in the game because you're a striker, or you just want to score more goals, well, if I'm shooting with my toe pointed up, I know that's not good. Gotta keep that toe down. Definitely don't want to shoot with a side foot. I want to shoot with my laces unless I'm one-on-one with the keeper, and then I can pick a corner probably from using a side foot, but that would be the only time that I would use a side foot. But if you can identify those 3 things, it's going to motivate you to do well. And motivation is such a big key to becoming the best possible soccer player that you can be. If you don't have the motivation, you might as well not step foot on the pitch, because if you don't have motivation, you're not going to be someone I look at. Part of being a mediocre soccer player is lack of motivation. I would rather have guys on my squad that they are motivated to do well, even if they don't have the best skill set in the world. I'm going to take guys that are motivated to do well, because the guys that are motivated to do well are the guys that are teachable. If you don't have the motivation to do well, sorry, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be teachable. Because if you don't have the motivation to do well, I could be the best coach in the world, and I'm not going to be able to teach you. And that's just the bottom line, is that if you don't have the motivation to not only do well on the field, but you don't have the motivation to figure out why you're having these problems, figuring out what your problem is, and figuring out how you're going to fix that problem. If you're not willing to figure out those 3 things on your own, and you expect your coaching staff to do it, because as a player you might be saying, well, as coaches you should be able to identify my problems. And you're not wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying I look at it this way. I look at it as, yes, as a coach, I can identify those problems, but can you? And that's a big thing. Because as a coach, if I'm looking after 18 kids on a roster, and I'm not saying that every roster is going to have 18 kids, I'm just saying a full roster is usually 18 kids. So I'm not going to be able to keep track of every kid individually. That's why it's so important for you as a player to be able to identify things that you need to work on and how you're going to get there and why it's a problem. That's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button and share the channel. I will see you guys next week for a new video. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and until next time, this is Jeremy Rika saying, see you later. Bye-bye.